You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Seth Shykes. Seth, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
All right. Well, I am 25 years old. I'm a glass blower. I work out of Minnesota, and I flame work glass. So basically, I have a torch, and I use rods of glass and make them solid, hollow, or anything in between. I make functional pieces and also pendants, primarily dinosaurs and creatures. I've also done a lot of pop culture work, stuff like that.
How'd you get into glass blowing?
Um, well, I collected glass for a long time when I was younger, and then I moved to Denver, and I was kind of job hopping, couldn't really find anything good. Ugh, bear with me, I have a cold here. But I was talking to one of my friends, and she was a glass blower, and she told me, she said, you're really mechanical, because I was a machinist for many years, up until I moved to Colorado, and she said, you should try glass blowing because you love glass, you collected glass, and it's kind of a medium that you might fall under. And I decided to rent a studio space out there for a month and just went for it and put everything into it for a whole month straight, like committed myself to that and fell in love with it and just went forward.
Would you say that it just being out there in general, it seems like with legalization becoming more common, especially in those types of areas, you're seeing a lot more of this type of art be done in general. There's a lot more of an avenue for it now. I mean, everybody thinks of glass art and they start thinking of things like pipes and the basic common stuff which you do, but you go a little bit far and beyond too. I mean, I've seen people, friends that I know that wear $1,000 pendants around their neck, and it's
Right, right.
art in some of like I would call it like a newer form.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to grow like as legalization spreads. I think that glass art is on the up and up, and the weird part is that it's like one of the oldest forms of art, like it started like, god, I don't know, like 300 BC. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there, not sure, but that, pretty close. But like, it's an old form of art. So I mean, like, it's been around forever, but it's still like there's new avenues, there's new ways for it to go, new things. Like, it is so much expansion, like ideas.
Well, back in BCE, whatever you want to say, when they started creating glass, I'm pretty sure nobody was creating things like you're doing with
Well,
Pokemon
that's
and Dragon
true,
Ball
but I mean,
Z.
like, but I'm saying, like, even then, like, it's been around for so long, it's been an art form for so long, it's still, I'm just getting at, like, I think that it's pretty crazy, like, that it can still be evolving after all that time.
Can you think that if anybody in Egypt back then would made a Goku pendant?
that, that'd be hilarious.
Oh, we know all about the Kamehameha. That's what they be telling
Hmm.
us. See, I think it's interesting just the amount of stuff that can be done with glasswork in general. I mean, I've seen a lot of things I started admiring. Like I mean, I vape, so I go to a vape
Okay,
shop or something, and guess what? They have a glass pipe out. And you
sure.
know what? I'm looking around and I see it all. It's There's a lot of talent that gets put into it as well,
Oh,
man. Like
yeah.
I saw one that was the Grateful Dead and it had the exact symbol. It was so perfect. I was like, how did someone was able to create this? I mean, the amount of process and first of all creative passion that gets put into glasswork in general, I kind of wanted to ask, like, what's your basic process for glass blowing? Everybody's got a style.
Sure, sure. My style is kind of like I come up with the ideas in advance, like pretty far in advance usually, and I have like a book where I'm drawing them out, and it's like I feel like I go through phases of things that I enjoy, but like um I'll be drawing in this book and kind of pick out a few things that really stand out, maybe like features of something, or like I'll look through photos and like let's say I'm in the mood for dinosaurs, like I'll probably go look up some photos of dinosaurs, pick out some references, kind of draw something similar to what I'm thinking of, and then I'll be building smaller things in between while I'm planning out a bigger piece. And then, like, within the next coming week, whenever I have a decent idea of what I want to do, I'll probably make one part of it and then kind of let the piece flow from there. So, like, I'll make the main section of a piece and then decide what's going to need to go with it to make it look like it has an elegancy to it or like a flow.
Would you say that a lot of your kind of background on it in general before you start up a piece goes a lot with sketching? It seems like I know I've talked to a few glass artists that really just kind of focus on, I guess, more like heading right into it and using with their hands and kind of developing it
Sure.
as you create it. But it seems like it would be a little bit easier if you could actually draw it out in the first place.
Yeah, so like what I have to say is that I wasn't good at drawing at all before I started glass, and then I started to learn drawing, and I feel like it's really helped because if I had to explain like flame working, I would almost call it just 3D drawing. Like if you use the same processes that you would in drawing, you kind of like it helps you. For instance, like when you're drawing, if you were to draw a face, you would want to draw the left side of the face first so that when you draw the right side, you can reciprocate it easier because you can look at the left side if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, opposite that. But so like same thing goes for glass. If I'm going to build a face, I usually start with like the left-hand side because I'm right-handed and then go to the right-hand side because I can see that part of the face.
Which one do you prefer to make more? Do you prefer to make pipes or do you prefer to make pendants and little type of trinkets that people can carry around?
Um, boy, that's kind of hard to say. I mean, honestly, it's more about the like idea itself. I guess I don't really care what the medium is, like which one that they like. Sometimes I like to get more detail so that I'd like to go larger and maybe make like a pipe or a piece, but I really do enjoy making pendants. Honestly, I've probably made most of my glass living off pendants so far.
Yeah, it's so see that's the weirdest thing is because I don't think any glass artist, at least back in the day, would have predicted that they're like just a basic idea, like, oh, I'm just gonna make pipes or I'm just gonna make, these
Sure.
types of smoking devices. Then they figure out, holy shit, like there's people that want to wear your art around in public. They don't want to be walking around with a 2-foot bong on their neck. They want to be
Yeah,
carrying
yeah, yeah.
like a Dragon Ball Z type thing, something that's more modern. I mean,
Sure.
that's the craziest thing I started noticing about glass was that so many people nowadays are now wearing pendants, necklaces, like stuff that you know is handmade and created, and being like, this is inspired by this artist, insert name here, and to see the replications, it's a mimic of their style as well. It's like you're taking a piece of their style with you.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoy that. I think pendants are kind of like on the up and up because like when I started glass blowing, everyone kept telling me they're just like, you're never gonna make it on pendants. Like you can't just sell pendants for a living. You're gonna have to make other stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I think if you do it right and you show the right people the right things, yeah, you can. And like kind of proved them all wrong so far. Anyway, like I've been primarily making pendants, and I just feel like people enjoy pendants more because it's something like, for one, it's smaller, it's in a better price range. For two, you can utilize it everywhere and bring it anywhere. It's just like there's not much limitation. Like there's just a wider variety of people who like pendants and enjoy that thing. And sometimes people just keep them in cases and look at them and stuff too. Like I have a few customers like that who like buy them to put them like on a stand, like they don't necessarily wear it.
Hey, I had a marble collection when I was a kid.
Hey, Marvel collections are great. I have one right now.
See what I'm saying is like when it comes to creating a pendant, like a lot of the kind of stuff that you make as well is a lot of pop culture and a lot of stuff that is around like on movies and like things that people would notice as well. Like I think everybody loves like the cool Grateful Dead idea
Oh
aspect. Like,
yeah.
holy shit, there's a skull with some flowers in its head, or some crazy monster looked like it crawled out of like Uranus or something. And
Yeah.
but what's really interesting too is like you also can hit a whole new avenue with like you're hitting Pokemon fans, you're hitting Yu-Gi-Oh fans, you're hitting
Yep.
you know Rick and Morty, Dragon Ball Z. The list goes on and on and on. Um, is that kind of how you just started figuring out like pendant designs? Did you just, I mean, besides creating the wacky monster type thing, it seems like when you're looking over and seeing like a good Marvel movie or you see the Avengers on screen, you're like, shit, I'm about to make a Captain America pendant.
Sure, sure. Okay, so I kind of am trying to get away from the pop culture a little bit at the moment. It wasn't my original plan to do pop culture, but then I kind of it fell in my lap. So the way that I go about the pop culture process is a bit different than drawing. Um, Pop culture process, I mean, like my lifestyle is very like I'm a nerd. I'm pretty much like, I'm very involved. I know a lot of Marvel lore. I read comic books, stuff like that. I play, a bunch of video games. So, I mean, Pokemon was something huge in my life. I actually have a very large tattoo of Pokemon on my
Hey,
arm. I mean, it's just
you're talking to a kid that used to go to the playground with a stack of Pokemon cards, and somebody was getting fucked up or with hurt feelings at the end.
exactly me too. So, on that note, it's like the pop culture really vibed with me. So when people started asking me to make things like that, I was like, well, of course I will. Like, and still upon request, I will make pop culture things at the moment. But I've gotten to a point where I kind of want to make like my own images, like my own things rather than the pop culture stuff, unless it's a request. But I still enjoy doing them. I do have plans for a couple pieces out in the future that are still pop culture related, kind of Marvel pieces, but
You enjoy them because you're interested in those too. Like, I mean,
sure.
same reason why that, everybody backed up at the playground when some son of a bitch pulls out 3 Charizards. You're like, whoa,
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
3 of those things? I think that's what makes it fun too. But going off and crafting into your own designs as well. I mean, that's anything an artist does. I mean, how many times you sit in an art class and the teacher puts something down saying, I want you to draw this, I want you to sketch this, I want you to work in the lines, then eventually you're just doodling on your own and you're like, fuck, I want to turn this into something.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at because like when I started this, like I came up with the name Mythic Glass. And it's like I really enjoy mythology and mythical creatures and things like that. And that was like the avenue I wanted to go. Originally was make like dinosaurs or creatures or something, of those avenues. But I just didn't feel like I had the skill to do so until fairly recently. I took a class with some pretty great artists who I learned quite a bit from. So that's kind of why the change in avenue from pop culture to what I'm going after now.
Yeah, see, if I'm a big Greek mythology nut, so if you want to head down that avenue, we can roll down that avenue. But I'd be
Yeah.
making, I see, if I had the ability or at least the materials to be able to blow glass or be able to even work with glass in general, I find that a lot of my stuff would be a lot of art designs as well. I mean, I love the crafted pieces and I love that too,
Sure.
but the whole stylistic and aesthetic appeal from it as well. I mean, a lot of your work has this function to it. This thing that's like it's very appealing to the eyes. I think it's really cool because when you look at anybody else's glass work, they're all so uniquely different. You're getting a piece of that person.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoy that. Like that's why I collect from a few different artists myself actually. It's just like kind of the energy you feel in a piece when you see
Plus, if you're playing Pokemon, you got a bunch of pendants of your Pokemon cards.
it.
You can make it some live action shit too besides Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I had one guy who ordered his whole like favorite like team, like his whole set of 5, like his favorite team. It was pretty cool.
Did he go and challenge the Pokemon League afterwards?
I don't know, but like he ordered them just as these little statues, and it was a fun project.
Would you say that like what's one of the hardest things that you have faced so far as a glass artist? Whether it was like one really bad experience or one really bad kind of just major,
Uh,
seemed like a bunch of things went wrong.
Man, I think characters can sometimes be that way. Like it. really depends on the project, but there has been a lot of frustrations in certain areas. I mean, like it takes patience. Like glass blowing is a slow process, and like even today, like I have some trouble making certain projects in certain ways and certain things. I mean, it's a slow going thing, and you have to realize that. And then sometimes when something's not going your way, you get frustrated, and then it starts getting worse, and you just kind of got to set it down and step back. And well, the characters, they can be frustrating because I want to be so exact with the proportions because that's an already existing like thing in the world that like it can be almost anxiety causing. Like, you just kind of get so frustrated with something not looking exactly like you'd
It,
like
it,
in
it
your
hits you with
medium.
more impact too because you know so much more about it being a kind of a fan of the culture in general.
Sure. Yeah, that's honestly like Charizard is probably my biggest battle. Oh God, I break so many of those. I have broken more Charizards than anything I've broken in glass, honestly.
Would you say that's just because of all the intricate pieces? Like it has wings and shit. Like a lot of people don't
Yeah, I
understand.
mean,
Like it's
it
fragile
it
art.
it is kind of because of the intricate pieces, but then also I get pretty picky with like the proportions and everything with it, and then I try to utilize some iffy techniques, like some acuter angles and other things that could.
You make a Charizard. Next thing you know, you're like, this thing's got a fucking droopy eye. I gotta throw it in the trash.
Yeah, no, it's not usually like that. It's usually like I'm going pretty aggressive with like the arm shaping or like the eyebrows or like the head or something, and then I get a big crack, and then just have to throw her away. Or I've dropped one actually. Like I finished one and then I dropped it. I don't know. It's just like the curse of Charizard, honestly.
The Curse of Charizard. There's got to be a book if anybody's got to write one.
I had another piece that fell over and his wing broke off, but I put that back on. It just, I don't know. He's my nemesis. I decided that.
Do you have a specific piece like that's very memorable to you, whether it was the experience or just how long it took to make? I know some people I've talked to who've created some works, and they said that some of their biggest challenges ended up becoming the ones that they ended up naming, like basically how it got its name.
Um, honestly, one I did very recently was probably one of my biggest challenges and favorite pieces. Um, was a hydra, so it has like three heads and a like snake-like body, and it was a fairly large functional piece. I made it like right after my class with the techniques that I learned, and being that hydras are my favorite mythical creature, I've been wanting to make them for a long time, and I think it turned out pretty good. So that one's pretty memorable. I mean, other than that, I used to make these Spinosauruses actually, like back when I was in Denver. And back when I started making those, I was pretty early on, and it was really hard to make functional pieces, but somehow I just kind of pulled these off, and it felt great because I made a series of seven of them, and they all sold, and they were my most popular works um, for a long time.
Would you say like do you have anything that you're dying to create? Like I feel like when it comes to just creating something in general, for me, I'm like Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's like, we're gonna start seeing some weird ass shit around here. Like if I had the ability to do some of the work that you do, I would be creating some freaky things, man.
Well, awesome. That's pretty cool. And anyways, yeah, I do have a couple projects that are like I'm really dead set on. So I want to go back to the Spinosauruses that I started originally because that was like a series I really wanted to go into, and I feel like as I'm making more dinosaurs now, I could really grow on that one. And also, my favorite dinosaur is an Ankylosaurus, and I have always wanted to make one out of glass, but I have been waiting until I felt like the time was right, and I think it's coming pretty soon here.
You're picking some sophisticated pieces, man. Like an ankylosaurus is not any simple task to create.
Yeah, no, and I want to go, I really want to put all the detail into it, and that's kind of why I've been waiting because I want to make like, the whole shell, all the spikes, like really everything.
What's your most commonly commissioned piece that you get offered? Right? Do people are just buying pendants or are they buying
Uh,
spikes?
You know, it kind of varies, honestly. Like, it's pretty like, a lot of pieces that people like to order are custom. So, like, we come up with an idea. So, like, we'll just like we'll start talking about a piece or talking about a general idea that they have, and then I tell them what kind of piece I think I could turn it into, or like what route we should go, and it kind of just evolves, and then we end up building something. But um, other than that, it's a lot of the time I just like make stuff randomly and it kind of goes.
Would you say a lot of your inspiration kind of hits you late at night? I feel like most of the time I come up with like a really good ideas like at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of like you know you're supposed to be sleeping, but your brain never shuts off.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably late at night usually when I'm just kind of sitting there, not really thinking about it, just letting it flow.
I definitely think that like with glass blowing in general, we're going to see a spark in interest in it and just the popularity of it too. I think it's giving a new avenue just with on the basis of how it seems like everything's being relooked at. Like older arts are more on the literally on the line of coming back. When it comes to like writing, people are finding new ways to do that now. And I think like we all had marbles as a kid. We all had these weird whatever clown statues that our grandparents had just randomly around the house. You thought they were like fucking possessed or something, you know? And it's like now it's coming back, like with the era kind of like, first of all, just, head shops, all these things becoming so popular. You're seeing just a new avenue of it, people starting to get into glass blowing a little bit more. Would you say that's like a good or a bad thing? I feel like as an artist, it's a good thing depending on how you take it.
I think it Yeah, I think you're right. It definitely depends how you take it because some people feel like that more artists means more competition, but I think that more artists just means more exposure because like you're going to continue making the art that you make and no one's going to make the exact same art that you are. Like even if someone was trying to bite off your projects and make something similar, like that's not going to do anything except for get you exposure and theirs will be different like it always will. So, I mean, I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's a positive thing because more people just means like more people interested in what you're interested in. Like, why would that be a bad thing? That's more people like you know, like more friends you could make, more connections you could make, more exposure.
Especially when it comes to just this art of glass blowing in general. If you look up the hashtag glass blowing, and that whole community seems like it's a lot of positive people, a lot of weird people too. I mean, no offense to the glass blowing community, but it's not really the glass blowers. It's more about the people that follow glass blowers. They're using offshoot Instagram accounts like 420 Blaze It Bro at whatever, you're like, okay, what, click on the profile. It's like a dude with like an ass for his profile pic. Like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, there's some really crazy stuff out there in the glass blowing community, but generally speaking, I think the best part about it is that it seems like most people are nice though. Like it's kind of like one of the nicest communities I've been a part of. Like there's not much hate or not much anger, not much I don't know, I never feel those type of vibes, but I do feel some silliness or some weirdos out there. That's true.
It's 420smokerchick.com. That whole niche group out there.
Oh yeah.
How often do you collab with an artist on a work?
You know, honestly, not all too often. My best friend is a glass blower, so we do projects, pretty often. But like, just with anybody except for him, not too often. Just a few times, honestly. But this year, I plan to do quite a few more. I just have yet to kind of take this road trip that I've wanted to take. Um, I have to get everything set up, and then I'm going to take a road trip kind of around the U.S., stopping at some different shops, collaborating with some different people. I just went down to Arizona and did a collaboration with an artist called Porter Glass, and yeah, that was one of my funner collabs. Good project. I have one in the works with Brandon Martin also pretty soon here. He was a teacher at an artist or at the class I just took, and he actually lives in the same state as me. And we're planning to make a small like ankylosaurus pendant with one of his heads, and I'm gonna make the body for it. it was something we'd actually done one before, like earlier when I met him once, but it broke on me, so we have to do another one.
See, what's crazy is though, like you're taking a road trip and you're going to all these different places. This is to expand your own knowledge just on the amount of styles that are out there too.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people don't really take that into consideration, which is different because most people think they can just go to a class and they can easily be taught something. And then next, you know, that's how everyone does it. When you start to realize everyone has their own unique style to it, like what we were talking about before with the pendants, like your style, for instance, how do you try to express to people using at least the method that you've kind of learned to adapt to or anything to create something that people are going to know that's your glass piece?
Um, yeah, there's certain ways that I try to express to make sure that it's known as mine. And for one of them, it's eyes. So I started making Millie eyes like in the beginning. It was a technique that my first teacher taught me. Um, and you pull down basically, God, that's hard to explain. Um, basically, it's a small design that's pulled down into a long cane, and you break off little chips, and then you use the chips of the design you've made to make eyes. And I'm very good at that, and I make my own original eyes that I only use in my pieces and collaboration. So people kind of know my pieces for the eyes and look for that.
You want the eyes that follow you around the room, not the ones that just stare right at you like a blank fish.
Sure. Yep.
See, I like that though because you know I know some people that collect like $1,000 glass pieces, like pendants, all these types of things,
Yep.
just carry them around. And he could literally tell you like if someone's walking on the street or something has a pendant around their neck. I live in a beach town, so there's a lot of people wearing
Nice.
pendants around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beach towns are common for that. I don't know why. It always seems like when someone doesn't have a shirt on, they want to have a pendant on.
Yeah, bro. I don't want my chest covered, but I want my neck. I want partially covered.
Yeah, for sure. Like every time. But I'm always wearing a pendant, so I can't judge. I always have one on.
See, but like I know people that like look and be like, "Hey, dude, he's wearing a this guy's glass pendant." I'm like, "How the fuck do you know that? Like, that's his style." I'm like, "How the
Yeah.
hell are you able to?" It's like back in the day when I used to know what Pokemon cards were real and fake.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean like I can discern that pretty much every time also. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like some people have really distinct styles and I really enjoy that.
How often do you get commissioned for something, and is it always something that you want to do? It seems like if somebody's commissioning you for a piece based on stuff that you enjoy making, like maybe something out of like culture such as like
Mhm.
Venom or superheroes or something, it would be easy to make rather than if someone was commissioning you to make a My Little Pony, you're like, fuck, I don't know anything about that.
No, I don't really judge, honestly. Like, I kind of make whatever someone asked for. I mean, like, I'm starting to get to a point where, like, I'm selective. But, like, okay, so in the beginning, I kind of took just whatever project someone threw at me, like, just to try to expand, like, my knowledge of glass. Because,
Double
like,
pipe dildo, you got it.
well, okay, though, though, okay, I refuse to make any sexual objects that I've been asked. That's like the one limitation. I won't do that. You need a polariscope to like make sure they won't break or fracture, and it's a long story.
You're
But
not doing
anyways,
that for a double pipe dildo. I got it.
exactly, yeah, 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 yeah. But oh, I got lost on a tangent. Forgot where I was.
Got lost on the double. See that came to my mind because I know my friend owns a pastry shop and she makes these pastries. And I remember her telling me one day, like, "Hey, you know, someone just commissioned me for a bachelor party." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. That's a giant gig." And she's like, "No, it's not fun." And I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "I'm making nothing but dildo cupcakes and dick
My
shaped and ball
God.
shaped foods, man." I'm like, "What? Are you like homophobic?" She's like, "No, I'm not homophobic, but you know how uncomfortable it is? I work with my mom." I'm like, "Oh."
That's funny. God.
See, I'm a big fan of creativity in general, though, and it's crazy to see like the types of things that people will order as well. Like, it just shows a lot about what their interest is. Like, I feel like in this world where we have so many avenues for creativity, not a lot of the times people are choosing that option or just even that choice to go out and pursue it.
Sure. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times, like when someone orders something, they'll have like a idea in the beginning of what they want, and then like if I expand on the idea a little bit, or if I tell them an idea I have that's similar to their idea, it almost ends up every time that they like the original, like they like an they like an artsy idea rather than like the original general idea they had. Like it almost seems like people just don't know what they could want until it's out there, like,
It's
until
like
the
getting a
art is out there.
tattoo.
Like,
It's
yeah,
it's literally like getting a tattoo. When you
like
give
you
a
have an idea, but then that artist, like once they put their style into it, you can really see what it is. Like,
Yeah, because I think that's the main thing about, like, if you're getting a commission for a piece in general, like, you give the person the basic idea and you let the artist run with it and show him what he can do with it, because 'cause they're gonna know how to create it better than if you know what I mean? They're gonna have more
yeah,
passion towards it. Like, if someone's giving me a tattoo, I'm like, "This is what I want on my body, bro," and then he gives me a better design. Like, my uncle's a tattoo artist, so,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
if I tell him, "Hey, I want to get, I want to get George Washington on my back," he's like, Do you really want George Washington on your back, or do you want Abraham Lincoln?" I'm like, "Oh man, Abraham Lincoln would be pretty sick."
yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying. Is just like it seems like when people get too restrictive, like when people are like, I want it like exactly like this, exactly like that, that it doesn't turn out as well because like it doesn't have the flow that a piece could have when you just kind of like let the person see it like as they're building it,
See, I
sort of
also
thing.
when I was bringing up before about collabing with other artists, I always thought that would be difficult because much
Ooh,
like
it is.
glass blowing in general, it's like cooking. You don't want, when too many chefs get in the kitchen, it becomes a fucking mess.
Yep.
It's so many people have an idea of what they want to create, and if you're not like, I know you said you worked with a friend. Like I mean, that's got to be a little bit easier, but it's still kind of
Yep.
difficult because you guys both have two separate ideas of what exactly you want to be able to create.
Yeah. A lot of the time, what starts a collaboration is you just like sit there and you just both like spit ideas at each other and like just like and then like you're like, do you like that one? And they're like, no. And then just okay, next. And then like if they spit one and you're just like, okay. And then you just kind of pick parts from ideas like, oh, I like that, let's kind of chuck this in here. And then but the rest of the idea is trash, let's keep going. And kind of like you only pick the parts that both of you agree upon. Like that's the way I like to go about it anyways. Like just kind of I always try to make sure that like the other artist is comfortable with what we're adding and what we're doing.
And sometimes that can play a big factor in just making a piece in general. Because if you start being like, all right, man, I guess we can do that. I guess we can do this. Next thing you know, you're creating something you really don't like anymore. You're like, ah, shit,
Right, right, like yeah.
this is basically just compensating for what he wants rather than what envision.
Exactly. But then, like, it seems that sometimes there tends to be, like, it depends on the piece that you're building. Because sometimes, like, if someone's building the bigger part of a piece, or like, it almost feels like certain pieces have leads, like it's almost their piece with your addition. Like if it depends like how cohesive the piece is going to be, because like if you're only adding a few different parts or small things, or like they have the general body of the piece, then it's more like you say, okay, should I make these attachments or should I make this? Like you kind of like let them have the lead and let them pull the direction, like if it would be primarily their piece. Like that's kind of how I've gone about it before.
I just had the best marketing idea, and I don't even care if somebody takes it. But if you're a glass artist out there, and I'm talking to you right now, Seth, but I'm telling you, you could sell to Taco Bell your work, be like, I will craft you out pendants to give to your. You know how many people are going to Taco Bell at 2 o'clock in the morning? That fucking drive-through is open. You know they're stoned. You know they're doing something. What do you want with your taco? I don't know. What do you guys have? We can give you a pendant made by Seth. What? What's a pendant? You know what Charizard is? Hell yeah, I know what Charizard is. Well, guess what? He's coming in your taco 12 pack.
That'd be pretty crazy.
I think I mean, that's a good market too for, just companies in general. Like the amount of how this is taken off too. Like I see so many people now that are starting their own glass shops. I mean, what are the basics that you work with? It seems like it's not easy to get materials, but surprisingly, it's got to be if there's so many people getting started on it.
It's not too hard to get materials anymore. So like I've heard that it was pretty hard before I started like to get materials. I mean, certain colors can be hard to get because they come and they go. Like they make certain colors for only limited time and that can be difficult. But like you can get just glass to work with pretty easily. I mean, there's a lot of outlets like online you can order stuff. I mean, the shipping is not great, but you can order it if you have the means and you would like to. I mean, I have a distributor that I used to go to in Denver and they still mail me stuff now. That's just kind of the same person I've always used. So
I heard a story about one of my friends. He told me this because he worked at a glass shop for a little while, and someone came in looking for someone that could commission a piece. He had a beer bottle that he never opened, and it was like it was like it looked like a Corona a little bit, but it was like some imported beer that his dad had imported, but he lost his dad earlier before the beer had all gotten to his house. So, it was like he was like, "I wanna drink this, but I wanna save the bottle." So what they did was they restored it into a piece. So they actually cut part of the bottle and formed it into an actual working
hmm.
piece.
Geez, that would gosh, that'd be pretty hard, man. Because like the bottles, so like the problem with trying to work bottles is that they're a different COE than like the glass that I use primarily. I mean, they could probably find a tube of the same COE glass and then build something off of it, but connected to the bottle. That's probably what they did. But currently, I couldn't work a bottle. I have seen people make a dragon with a bottle, but you only use tools and you like pull the neck out on the bottle, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's an interesting story. That's pretty awesome, actually.
I think it's just like the whole decorative aspect of it too. Like it's not doesn't even have to be for smoking. I mean, I know how many
Right, right.
I'm not a big smoker, and I've collected so many pieces where they never even get used. They just sit there only because of the aspect of they look so fucking badass. Like you're looking at it
Right.
like I can see the ocean in this glass piece, and people are like, "What do you mean you can see the ocean?" I'm like, "Look at it." It's like, wow, that's exactly what the ocean would look like.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you say that like what's one of the most, I guess, beneficial things that you've learned just through glasswork in general? Would you say it's just the community that you've been involved with, or just your own kind of knowledge in general, finally finding something that you're interested, like super into?
Um, Gosh, I mean, there's so many countless things that I've learned from this, honestly, but I feel like I've had a lot of personal growth from having to run my own business and having to like do this whole thing and have this art medium. And, I was not generally an artist when I was young. I was more mechanical. Like, I mean, for most of my working years, I was a machinist. Like, I rebuilt engines and I built like booms for cranes and things like that. I did welding and fine measurements and things like that. But when I tried this, I just like got into art, and I feel like it kind of just opened a side of me I hadn't seen. Like, I feel like I'm using a different part of my brain, and I see things kind of differently. I feel like it's a big change in life in general, and that the whole thing is just teaching me a lot.
Yeah, you stop following directions like building a machine. It's like the same routine over and over and over again. Like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
this piece broke out. All I gotta do is replace it with this, and then tie this. Next thing you know, we're good. Now you're relying on creativity, which is free flow. Like you don't have an understanding process. It just hits you at random times.
Right. The interesting part is that like all the skills that I learned from machining though kind of go over into this because I was so good with like measurements and things like that. When I try to get into small detail and make something look exactly the same, I have a fine eye for looking at like, the size of like two eyes and making sure they're the same and things like that.
See, that's what is so hard for me to understand. Like how difficult it must be as an artist to be able to recreate something like just exactly like the piece before. Like, oh, my buddy got this pendant. I want one exactly like it. You're like, fuck. Do you have to keep
I
track of
mean,
that?
It's it's rather hard. Most things that you make a duplicate of do turn out like, a little bit different. I mean, if you're trying to make it something exactly the same, that's almost impossible. I mean, like not not horribly. Depends how big the piece is. Like, I would say that like there's some pieces I would very much so struggle to make a second one that looks exactly the same. Um, but like smaller things I could probably make it pretty close. But yeah, if I was going to make it exactly the same, I'd have to start getting into measurements and measuring everything, and that would be very, very time consuming. Usually I like to just like kind of start to build the project, and I know about the size of the pieces that I've used, so I usually tell everybody like it'll vary probably like 10-20% in size, like up or down from the original.
Yeah, it's like when I bought a new pair of shoes and I played my whole year of soccer in it, and next thing you know, those shoes got thrown out, and I had to get a new pair. Just they didn't feel the same. It was like, no,
Yeah.
they don't have fucking character into it. She's like, "What do you mean character? You lost every game." I was like, "That's the character."
Yeah, the lucky shoes.
You know, lucky shoes. When it comes down to the matter of fact, though, where do you see yourself going in this? Like, do you want to open up your own business, or do you want to just become more of a well-known glass artist? It seems like opening up a business to sell your own pieces would be cool, but also
Uh,
having shops buy them and also be able to be just a well-renowned glass artist and be able to learn too.
Yeah, I think like the direction that I would like to go would probably just be like well-known glass artist. I would like to sell my pieces to a bunch of shops around the US. Like, I mean, opening my own shop would be fun and all, but that's a whole different commitment. So, if I was going to open a shop, I'd probably have to cut down on the glass blowing time. And like glass blowing is what I want to do as my job, not really run a glass shop. Not that that sounds bad, but like I'd rather just support the shops that I have and have them support me and just try to get more well known for glass. And then I mean, who knows where that goes, in the future, maybe teach people. I have no idea, but that's, we'll see.
What type of mindset do you have to get into to be able to blow glass in the first place? I feel like every artist has a process, whether it's something that they eat in the beginning of the day or whether it's just a mindset they have to be in.
For me, it's just like I kind of need like a general direction. Like if I don't have like a plan of like, what type of piece I need to make, like, oh, this idea or that idea, like if I'm just going willy nilly at it, it just doesn't really happen right. So I need to like either write something down or draw it or at least have like some sort of beginning direction. Otherwise, it usually just doesn't turn out how I'd like.
Do you ever just get randomly hit with something, you have to write it down, you have to like walk out or find a
Oh, yeah,
notepad?
definitely. Yeah, I keep a little notebook with me in case I have a crazy idea. Cause yeah, that happens all the time. Someone will just like say something, and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh,
Oh my God, tacos. We could sell pendants at Taco Bell. There we go. Write it down.
taco pendants at Taco Bell."
Two for one. Um, so I do want to ask though, what's your first smoking story? Come on, everyone's got one.
First smoking story? Oh gosh. My friend's cousin, or my best friend's cousin, came over to his house when we were hanging out when we were younger, and him and his older brother were like outside smoking, and me and my buddy went outside, and he was his cousin's like, "Hey, come here, hey, come hit this thing," and it's like a green bubbler, like a glass bubbler. It's actually pretty cool. I still remember that thing. I still liked that thing, but they broke it. Um, but anyway, yeah, we hit it, and then we were running around. I mean, we were pretty young, but yeah, we were running around acting like dinosaurs, just laughing.
That's crazy. My first legit time I swear everyone says this, but I didn't actually get high from it. I just ended up
Oh,
getting like pretty fucking hungry, eating like 12 packs of
yeah, we
ramen.
got baked. Actually, how we knew was like his cousin told us, he's like, "All right, here's a baseball," like, and we were throwing it back and forth, and he's like, "You'll know you're baked when when the baseball gets hard," and like it was really like I had trouble catching the baseball at some point, and then I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "Okay, I'm baked." Like,
I'll never forget the one time I really got severely high. I think I must have been like 16 years old, and I was smoking with someone who does it like every day, like never not high. And it was like one of my first times, so I was like, yeah. And so I'm trying to keep up with him, and
oh
next thing you know,
god.
he just looks at me, he goes, "How high are you right now?" I just looked at him. I was like, "What?" And I just look in the mirror and like everything, color, saturation, like whatever you want to say. Someone turned the saturation up on my eyes to the point where reds were so fucking red. I felt like I was in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory
Oh,
or something.
jeez.
Dude, I was losing it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go downstairs. Dude, trying to navigate the steps was like a 45-minute process. He ended up finding me. I think it was like 20 minutes later. He's like, just passes me on the steps. He's like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. I'm just walking down the steps." And he's like, "You've been walking down the steps for like 35 minutes."
Jeez, that's crazy.
But like
That's funny.
those memorable moments though, man, like just whatever the piece that you smoked out of was too. Like every time I walk into the
Yeah,
head shop, it doesn't even have to be smoking pot either, smoking tobacco, whatever. I know so
yeah,
many
yeah. Whatever.
pipe smokers, but those memorable pieces, man, really just constitute up those just art in general in my mind. Every time I look at a piece, I know so many people that have bonded over smoking over something,
Oh
have
yeah, people name their pieces for Pete's sake. I mean, plenty of
exactly.
people do. Like,
There was one glass artist that talked about he did a commission for a girl where he put her pet's ashes in the piece.
yeah, yeah, no, people do that. I have a few people who wanted me to make those, but I just would want to be very sure that I could make something of the quality that I would want, and I'm not so sure that I would know how to utilize ashes in that way, so I haven't done it. But yeah, like memorial pieces are very memorable and those are like great. I really enjoy that idea and I like to see those pieces.
I think it's a good idea. I just wonder, like, when somebody gives you like a cremated urn of like either the person's ashes, I'm like, how do I know if these are my grandpa? Are these my grandpa, or did you just cook up some
Well,
barbecue and dump some Memphis in here?
true. True, but I mean, like, yeah, probably just good faith.
I have faith in humanity, but I also know how I would be a little bit too. I'd end up forgetting, like, oh shit, we didn't cremate his grandpa yet. Yo, throw those ashes that are on the barbecue in this thing.
I don't know. I mean, come on, come on. Like, think about it. If you were the guy who was the worker at the crematory, would you do that?
Think about this though, and it really comes down to it. If you're cremating somebody and you're getting their ash, how do I know if I'm getting all my grandpa? What happens if I'm getting a little bit of cousin Jerry or some other person in my
Well,
urn?
I mean, that's true. You probably are getting a little bit of other other person, but
I wonder how many mix-ups are at the freaking urn business in general.
I mean, like, really, if you think about it, it's more about the meaning of having it, it's not necessarily that it's correct, because you'll never really know.
It's
So,
like a placebo effect. It's like
yeah,
taking a
exactly.
pill and then saying it works. Oh, it definitely works. And it's like, oh, that's definitely my grandpa's ashes. And you open it up and there's like just a biscuit in there. You're like, what the hell? He turned it to a biscuit.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Out of the Blank, buddy. This is how it goes. Now, if you had to say anything to anybody out there that's aspiring to do glasswork or maybe just interested in the art in general, what would you say?
I'd say, just look up either local artists to you or like a shop where you could maybe go and give it a try. And I say definitely try it before like investing into it and really, buying a lot of stuff because it is pretty expensive to start in the first place. But I say give it a try. Do glass, make glass art, make any type of art. Just
Even YouTube that shit. I feel like
yeah, yeah. There's Torch Talk on YouTube, which is great. Like that has so many videos about working borosilicate glass, which is what I make. Those guys are really great. The guy Mike Mason who runs that, real nice guy. Met him a few times, and yeah, he does a good job filming glass, and you can watch all kinds of pieces be made on that YouTube channel. So
shout out to Dernswick Vonstrom, whoever you are on YouTube out there in Russia, who helped me when I had to look up a YouTube video on how to fix my car when it broke down in my driveway.
sweet.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like YouTube, that's a whole avenue that you can just get basic lessons and stuff on. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's something I think a lot of people wouldn't have even thought about choosing towards.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, YouTube has such a wide variety of things that you can see and learn about. It's pretty great. I mean, like, just the knowledge you can learn from like anything on the internet these days is pretty wide.
Now, the name Mythic Glass, I know you said you had a fascination for mythological things, but
hmm
is that where it stems from?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it's just I had the original idea that I would like to make, like, dragons and creatures and hydras and, mythical
You're a RuneScape
beasts.
fan,
So
aren't you?
I used to play a lot of RuneScape,
I know, that's what
but
I'm
like,
saying. I could tell.
but like World of Warcraft was the real,
All right.
the real, the real grind.
I,
But
I still play both of those every now and again. I just turned my World of Warcraft on, I think, for the first time.
oh man, I was thinking about it. I was just thinking about it. Like I was about to do it after Christmas, but I haven't. But yeah, that's kind of where it stems from. Is just that like my original intention was to make mythical creatures in my own design and let it go from there. So I mean, like that was it. And then it just kind of like felt like a flowing name, felt good. So I was just like, okay,
I want you to commission me a piece that is Poseidon.
piece it is Poseidon.
Poseidon.
Oh
Yeah.
man, would that be sick?
It
I
could-
have a bunch of skin tone to make Poseidon.
oh my God. Either that or Jason Momoa. I don't care which one.
Oh my God. It's not Jason Momoa.
Just don't involve plastic bottles, please. I don't feel like hearing that one from him.
Oh Lord. Yeah, no, I mean I'd make Poseidon. That'd be a rather cool project.
Well, hey, Seth, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, man. I want to kind of give you here a minute at the end to promote your page and your content as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, you guys can find me on Instagram at Mythic Glass. I take custom orders of pretty much whatever idea or design you have as long as we discuss it. And then I always have a lot of work available. So that's pretty much it. That is my only avenue to find me, though. So
And he
there you go.
also will be working with McDonald's or Taco Bell primarily in the near future. If you want to, get his art, maybe he's going to make a biscuit for KFC. I know the Colonel does a little bit off the original recipe. And he's staying away from Arby's though, because just Arby's, they just don't want the avenue. They just want, it's just Taco Bell and KFC seems like it's going to be our primary direction.
Tacos at Taco Bell.
Tacos 2 for 1, baby. 2 for 1. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.